Cool.
Awesome.
Oh, hi, Aleathia Brown.
Hello, hello, hello.
I am so happy to have you with us. I'm so happy to be chatting with you because you're chock full of information and provoking thoughts. And I really want to kind of get into some conversations around, who you are, what you do. As you know, this project is called Art in June, and it's really a look in how artists are dealing with mental wellness. Um, as they create their end product. You have a bunch of beautiful pieces of work. And what I love is that you work in so many different mediums. So I want you to talk to me a little bit about, who is Aleathia Brown, the
Mm,
artist?
hmm I am, I often call myself an alien because I know I don't fit in this realm because of the way I'm wired. But I am in a surrender of an assignment that I was given to create. Because for me, art was not just a thing I do, that is who I am, no different than the color of my skin or the limbs that are coming out of my joints. Because for me, when I'm doing art, different things are happening. There is art for me as a business, career wise. There is art for my spiritual sanity. There is art to tell stories. So there are different portals that I go in and out of. And it just so happens that I can put any one of those directions that I might have been going in when I was creating into a public forum and for them to ingest. So I'm not always making art for an audience. Sometimes I'm making art for my own healing. Sometimes I'm making it from a conversation. Sometimes I'm making it because of an evolution I'm having with myself because I'm always evolving, transforming, and shifting gears, reinventing myself as I age and this journey keeps going through its iteration.
Wow, that's a lot.
Life is a
that,
lot. Got a lot going on because
that,
I'm
that's a
funny.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, we recently had an earthquake on an eclipse, right? And I really do believe, some people are on both sides of this. They're like, well, first of all, I didn't feel the earthquake. I was on the road traveling. I didn't feel
Mm,
anything, right? And until I got home and people were like, did you feel that earthquake? I was like, I didn't feel anything, but I'm grateful for that.
yes.
But I did witness the eclipse and I was very intrigued by that, right? I did not take pictures like people were doing and all that stuff. I just thought it was such a phenomenal thing to experience for myself. And it gave me a sense of energy that
Yes.
I just could not explain, right? But it was awesome to watch it, right? But I also noticed there's a shift or there's I don't know because it was a full moon. I don't know. I kind of feel like people are just kind of acting crazy,
Uh,
crazier.
is affected by it. How can you not? Your body's made of water. The moon and the ocean have a direct connection with how they set the mood, the tone, the energy. Energy has the power to make things move and grow. That is a poem I just recently wrote that I actually am just kind of manifesting because of the day of the eclipse is when it started manifesting in my head because I was getting up off of this couch that I'm sitting on when it happened. And I thought it was the boiler in my building or something else. And
Right.
then I felt this shift and said, no, there's something bigger going on. And then I just sat for a second and said, this is how so many people get in danger zones because they're just in their own head about their day. Like nothing could ever stop you so incredibly in a
Mm,
to shift you from your everyday everything is so important to this is no, I got your full attention and you will see.
absolutely.
That's the moment.
Unapologetically at that.
Yes, it was
Yes.
like when the pandemic hit that I had to sit and meditate and go,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
life
I
has
get
changed
it.
dramatically in ways we have never heard of.
Yep. And have yet to even imagine how it's reckon because it's you're still processing, I think, right? You're still processing what's going on, where people are still talking about this.
And how do
So
I
it's kind of
feel?
like, how am I fitting into this? How is it transforming me without, and I probably don't even recognize how yet. I probably can't even answer the question.
Because it's bigger than you.
Mm-hmm.
You are this pebble on this pond. And this is why nature is always the blessing to have. When you watch how nature operates, then it's the answers right there. You can then begin to put the analogies of how those things operate in that universe with how I am in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
Bigger than life in our own head and realize, wait a minute, I'm not.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just like as I get older, I know nothing.
Absolutely. I agree with you on that.
Young, I thought I knew everything. I thought I knew a thing or two. I know nothing.
That's
And I,
your ego. Your ego, what they say is your ego is when you edge God out, right?
yes,
And
right,
I really feel like I feel like I'm unbecoming,
right,
I'm relearning
right,
everything that I thought I knew.
right. Because
It's being questioned. Yeah.
the who am I? I
Yeah.
am a child of God in a surrender. How about that?
Amen. Amen. It's kind of like, when they say I am that I am, and people are like, what does that really mean? But I get it. I totally get it. You are something different because you're a being. When you're being, you are being something different all the time. So you're not just one thing.
We are bioelectric energy.
Bioelectric energy.
So that's
Okay.
now. Like that. This is. I'm a geek when it comes down to art and science and history because that's how each of those layers explain each other's existence in a profound way that is not about some man-made version of who's going to write it because he who has the power to write the book is having the power to tell the truth in their version, but there is not a version when there's truth.
I
It is
agree.
what it is.
I
So when you
agree.
use history and you use science and you use the truth in that sense, there is no question about the order of things.
It's yeah, yeah. There are laws.
Existence.
Yeah, there
Right.
are
You
laws.
make it up.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there are laws to everything. And the universe is so massive that it's so funny because you were talking about what we're made of, that we're made of the very things that the universe is made of, right? It's like the leaf of a tree, right? While they say sometimes when you feel anxious, hug a tree, walk
Yes.
barefoot,
I'm a
there's some realness to that. There's a reason for that. The electro, yeah,
the carbon, the oxygen, the exchange,
yeah,
the network, because underneath the ground. So I was listening to the scientist talking recently about how a tree grows up and down, but there's a
yes.
network
I saw
underneath.
that.
They also block if a tree is dying or diseased, the rest of the network underneath the soil blocks that disease from infecting the rest of them, or they will send nutrients to that tree that needs it. It's a network. And we use that
So
in our
awesome.
vocabulary, but we don't actually employ that in how we live and move.
It's so awesome. It's so awesome. You
That's
know, I was fascinated by, and I think you might have sent it to me. I don't remember who did, but there was there's a reel or there's a photo um, that when you cut the tree trunk and you put it next to a fingerprint, that you see the similarities
in
of the
that pattern.
grain
Yes, in that pattern. I know I didn't send that to you, but I know about that because the same thing happens with the spiral X on the top of our
of
head.
our heads.
The same
Yes,
pattern of the planet's orbit, but also the plants.
yes.
They
Like
grow.
this, how
That
their hair grows. That's fascinating to me. It really is. And that's the other thing I think I'm realizing as I'm getting older. The things that I'm unbecoming, the things that I'm learning in place of the stuff that I'm shedding
right.
is so fascinating and it's so scintillating. I can't stop myself. I get
Right.
excited
Stay
as I learn more and more stuff, and I wish I had that kind of wisdom, but maybe I wasn't supposed to have it then.
been ready for it. Things happen divinely when they're supposed to, because you would have had that information and had to come back to relearn it because you are evolving in this space and this time
Yeah,
and this way. No, nothing like you were before because this is a new iteration of you. So it's just like when you can read the same book every 10 years, you're gonna get something else out of it because
absolutely.
so it's gonna land differently.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So talk to me about when we were talking earlier, you said something about when people have mental challenges. I want to understand what is it that you experience as you're creating, not necessarily in the creative process, but because we know the creative process, it involves many different things for different people. And then the end result of your product is the beautification of that creative process, right? It's the thing that people says, oh my God, this is beautiful, this is wonderful. What is going on with you from a mental space, from a psyche space, as you're going into that creative process? What is that? What is happening to you when you meet challenges, when you meet hurdles, when you meet obstacles? Do you recognize that there is, so I'm asking two questions. Do you recognize, if you do, that there's a name for that thing? Or is it just the fact that you find a challenge and then you kind of figure out a way to get through the challenge? Like, is it depression? Is it, you know,
It
schizophrenia? Is it something, or is it just you being able to just kind of fight through all of those things and still create?
So I have learned at the age of maybe 12, 13. That was my first time learning how to meditate. And I had that space I went into with that euphoria, and I came to, I had been levitating, and when I came to, I was in a puddle. Literally, the couch was soaking, my clothes were drenched, I was in a puddle. That was the very first time I also began to fast. My very first fast was around then. I did a 2-week fast because the euphoria that I was experiencing in having an out of body, it was beyond words, color, and sensations that you can even explain. And because I've had a couple of near death experiences and I've seen what going to the other side was like, I have an inner standing of what place I go to in that mental space creatively that most people don't because they haven't had
Mm,
experience. So having seen how time moves in another realm, makes me understand how come artists are always challenged with time in their own world, because creating, if you look at anybody who creates, they don't have a good sense of time, right? Because time doesn't exist when you're in the process of birthing a body of work or a piece of work, because you're creating something that didn't exist, even if it was from an iteration of something you was exposed to or experienced. Like, I can draw a picture of a little girl because she's sitting in front of me, but where I have to go inside mentally to pick up the essence of her soul so that I'm depicting that energy on that piece of paper or canvas is an understanding of what vital parts of my intelligence, and I don't mean intellectually and academically, but emotional intelligence, spiritual intelligence, it's got its own network. And
mm,
fibers of that start activating. That's why you get this tingling sensation sometimes, or you want to sleep a lot.
yeah.
Sometimes when I'm preparing to work, I have to leave this place and go into that place. And in order to do that, I have to remove this. So I may have to take naps, long walks, sit by trees, be in nature. And mentally, one of the things to heal yourself when you're going through an episode mentally is to be by nature. Put some
Yeah.
music, do some movement, dance. I may sometimes do a combination of Tai Chi and my own little fixation on movement to music and sound, or I'm in my head with movement. So there are different things that are happening because the work that I might be doing may take me on a journey so different each time. And it's never the same method. So I may have works that I've had to do a lot of exercise in between, and I'm jumping up and down, doing jumping jacks in the middle of. And if somebody would come in the room and see me, they're like, "What is she doing?"
Right.
There's
Like
moments
this
where,
and that C word, she's crazy.
yeah, and crazy is okay because crazy people need love too.
That's
And for
right.
me, it means out of balance, and I am out of balance because to be in this space, you got to be out of balance.
Yeah.
And in order to find your
Yeah.
center and be back in balance, you have to be able to be a receptacle to what's happening. What am I feeling? Where am I going with this? What message am I conveying? And what's so amazing is that sometimes when I really do the assignment that I'm given on a particular piece of work, other people say to me what I've never written on piece of paper about what I was doing in that work. They will say for me, it's as if you were doing blah, blah, blah. And they will say exactly what I was thinking, like I transmitted it into them. That's
Mm,
my job. Because if you can, I just recently had that. This young man said to me, it's as if the color is vibrating and telling me a story like this energetic connectedness. And I said, but that's where I go when I'm playing with color. Like I don't use color because I like it. I don't
yeah, I
use
was
color.
reading that. I was reading that in your bio.
Yeah, I have a metaphysical purpose for color because color is math and science and movement and waves. And how is it telling the story of where I'm trying to get you to feel from your inner space, not your outer space? And art slows you down, which is what happens mentally when you have to come out of a crisis that you're in. You have to slow down and change your
Mm,
breathing because most of us live in short, panting breaths. And the reason why breath work is so powerful is it shifts that energy and slows you down and makes you cognizant of the organs,
mm. That's
the space you're in, the air you're ingesting, the air you're excreting. So all of this to me is art. And look at what a garden is. A garden is the profound gift of art because it feeds us on so many ways. We are predisposed to ingesting color with our eyes. How many colors do our eyes ingest per second in a lifetime? And that's why it's so natural for us to play with color. And that's why I say play with color because you're more productive in play than in work. I don't even like the fact that we use the word artwork. I say art at play. As long as I'm playing, I'll never work. As
you're
long as
right.
I will always be productive because it won't end. I'll get so much energy off of play that I'm going to always be searching for another way I can have an angle with this.
I love that idea. So thank you for that because I yesterday you know, as I said, I'm a writer by trade, and I have to write a grant. I'm working on a grant as we speak. And yesterday I started writing my portion of the grant. I'm working with other people on it. And I was exhausted. All of a sudden, I
Mm-hmm.
was so sleepy. I had to take a nap.
Yes, yes.
And then I got up, I had something to eat, I started working, I was fine. And but then I told you, you know, then I started feeling like I was getting blocked and I was getting stuck and I got up and I walked around and I did some things. And so thank you for confirming.
Everything you said, right? As if I was in your head before you said it.
Yeah. But you know, alignment, right? It's that thing we talk about energy. Everything happens just the way it's supposed to happen, right? You are sharing this with me that I went through something yesterday. It's the very same thing. And so that's just confirmation that, you know, I was in the right path doing the thing I was supposed to be doing.
That's the surrender.
So thank you. Thank you for that. I see, I told you this is why I talk to you because I just feel
Yeah,
like every time we talk, you know,
that energy. Yes. It's
I learn so much, you know, because I get to understand someone else's perspective. And I don't think that, you know, it's just me that's thinking this way, but it's great and it's beautiful to see that there's this alignment, this energy thing that's happening is very real, you know, and it's purposeful, you
yeah.
know. Um, so what astonishes you? You know, because you're super deep on a couple of levels, right? It's like, you know, having some intellectual conversations with you is exciting to me because I really love that. But uh you can be really deep for folks who don't really quite understand
I said
that
alien.
whole
I started
level,
out
which is
alien.
good.
Yeah, but I am.
But I love it because I want to know what astonishes you.
Creativity. I drink other artists, other forms of art, no different than lay people. When I see another person's approach to the same thing so totally out of this atmosphere that I would have, like I was watching the video. I sometimes watch television and videos with no sound because I absorb it differently when I see the imagery, right? And this sister was playing a guitar, but she had a sheet of paper with words on it typed, and she was hitting the paper like as if it was the strings of the guitar without ever strumming the strings. And she was reciting whatever she was reciting. I thought that was so powerful. The message in that artistically, like she's playing the music. And I was like, ooh. So I will delve into like this is how so I do photography sometimes, and that's my own personal thing. Like poetry had been a thing I never shared with the world for many years. So I was at my printer one time, and this gentleman comes in, and he's sitting at the computer next to the computer that I'm working with, the graphic designer I'm working with. And he's putting these images on the screen. And every time he put an image on, I would say a word or a sentence. And lo and behold, each time it was either the title of the piece or some part of the title of the piece. He goes, wow, how are you zeroing in on things we normally have to explain? It was his wife's art. He was like, something tells me that there's something deeper about you. If you got any photos of nature or something that you have, send it to me. So I did. And now I have a show that's traveled around the world with these photographers. They have a catalog they created from it. And it was about a combustion that I photographed out in nature when I was up near the Tappan Zee Bridge one 4th of July. The trees, are doing their fractal edge against the night sky, but it was a point where the night lit and did a backlighting of the trees
Yeah.
and a portrait on the sky. And so everybody sees different things, but that's what I caught in that moment. That
Wow.
was what I got in that
That
show.
gave me goosebumps when you just said that.
Yeah, I'll send you the photo.
Please
But
do.
but I was the only Black female in this whole exhibit of all these Asian photographers, and some of them are famous photographers from all over the world, National Geographic, you name it. And little old me decided, okay, I'm gonna start showing my photos.
Good for you. Good for you. But that's like that to me is what makes this work of creative so exciting, right? Because the very time that you think that what you're creating is not, to you, it's like, it's okay, it's cute, I could do it better, or maybe I could work more, or whatever. Somebody thinks it's the most fascinating thing ever that they've seen. It's the most beautiful thing, right? And the thing, and I was talking to another artist about this last week. He said to me, pretty much similar to what I'm saying. He said, when I create work, he says the stuff that I really like, he goes, people are like, it's no big deal. He says, but I really, really like it. He says, but the stuff that I'm kind of like, it's okay, I could do better. People just go crazy about it. They love it. They want to buy that. And so I just always think that's fascinating, right? Because again, we are our biggest critics, right? We are very adamant about what we think
Mhm.
it should be versus
Yes.
what it really is. And I was saying to him, once you create it, it's no longer yours, right? Once you create it and you share it, it's no longer yours.
Exactly. And that's what happens. I say my most sold works were the pieces I hated. I know I'm onto something when I hate the piece. That's what makes me finish. I'll finish something I hate quicker than something I love. And because I know that's what's gonna sell.
Yeah. So let's talk about that. How long does it take you to do a piece? Like how long does it take you to do a piece?
And depending my obsession with it, it can go anywhere from hours to weeks,
Yeah,
maybe.
okay.
Piece I've ever taken on one particular work was a year. I mean, this installation piece I did with air conditioning and heating duct scraps and wood and fire and water, that the center part of that piece took me exactly 12 months of blood, sweat, and tears. I slept with the piece. I even sat it in a hole in a park overnight after I did it. I literally put it out in the street and came back and it was sitting there untouched. So it
Wow.
took me on a journey, but it also has been on a journey because I've shown it in other places far from here. So, you know,
That's
mm, my
so
it gets me in whatever space on a body of work.
so do you do art full time?
I've never had a 9 to 5.
Got it. Got it. And
Yeah,
what's the price range of your work? Like, um,
it
if
made
there's such a thing, because I don't always believe in price pricing.
I mean, if I just off the top of my head look at some of the work I have, 500 to 20,000, somewhere in that
Yeah,
range.
yeah, okay. And really in reality, you know, I was at an exhibit the other day, and we were talking about Basquiat, and we were talking about how when he was alive, maybe his work, probably the highest it might have gone was $1,200, $1,500, right? Fast forward, now it's going for 15 million, right? And so I always I think I marvel at that because I think to myself, what the price, and that's why I really have an issue with the art world per se, the way we know it to be, because of the biasness and of the exploitation, and on and on and on and on. But the the gall of somebody to put a price tag, to me, is
Right.
always
Right. That's why there's such a
blows me
conflict.
away.
Yeah, it's always a conflict because how do you price something that has such a spiritual value also when it's almost like that goes against the grain of what spirituality is, and you
Absolutely.
artists that never sell certain pieces because it has such a interconnection that you can't put certain pieces in a stranger's hand. So they'll make a separate body of work just for public consumption. So that's why the printing industry got so huge with technology, because that gives another outlet for artists to put their work in front of people
Yeah,
without sell the originals and put the originals maybe in an institution and archive it, as opposed to just putting it in anybody's hand.
yeah, I agree. um so what's your superpower, you think?
Being a woman and black on this planet.
Wow. Okay. I resonate with that.
Hmm.
That's a whole lot. That's multi-layered. Got
Because
it.
you're not given choices. You have to now decide how you're going to move through the things that are going to occur in your time here. And being strong or weak is not an option. It may be a condition or a situation. You don't get to choose that. And for me, some of the stuff that I can tell, some would go, "What? How are you sitting upright?"
Mm,
I have people who will say things like, "You would never think you've been through anything hard." Choices and decisions on how I am going to allow something to dictate who I am and what I become as a result of what happened. This is a thing that's happening, but this is not who and what I am. How I survive these things, only God could know and
amen.
understand how I'm still here in spite of that and got a fraction of my sanity.
You are supposed to be here. You cannot go anywhere yet. You
Oh,
know,
that's why I
you cannot go anywhere permanently yet.
that's why I'm on an assignment. I understand that. I've
Yeah,
had many reasons to see. Oh, I've had other people say to me, "You just got another chance. Do what
yeah,
you've never done."
yeah, yeah. And I'm selfishly saying I'm grateful for that. I'm selfishly saying I'm grateful for that because I think you are a phenomenal, wonderfully talented being that continues to evolve in ways that I am always, as I said to you before, and this is not blowing smoke up your tushy. I am always inspired and motivated by what you're doing, and what you share, and what you say, and what you create, because I just think it's so multi-layered, and it's so multifaceted, and continue to keep doing what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Continue to keep doing what you're doing, because you have to. You just have to. It's
I,
like it's in the blood. It's like blood in your veins. You have to.
I'm too far in. I'm too far in to go back. And I never ever had that question. If anything, it's been all kinds of messages that reminded me that that's why I'm here. Now,
Yeah,
and it Listen, it wasn't cute and it wasn't easy, but it is real. The things that have stood out. Like I've had 3 episodes in my life when I was thinking about throwing a towel in and doing that job thing that humans do that I know is not in my blood.
Yeah.
And it was always each of those times a check in the exact to the penny amount that I needed to get through that moment.
Isn't that something?
And different times in my life, in my 20s, in my 30s, in my 40s, it happened at different intervals when I was at my lowest frequency. And
Wow.
I said, God, send me a sign. And literally in my mailbox, to the penny, unusual amounts of numbers.
Thank you for that. Thank you so much for that. You have no idea. Yeah, thank you. I truly do believe nothing happens by accident, and when you're searching and you're seeking, you are organic in that, right? You're intentional in that. Um, what shows up is magical.
It's amazing. It's
It's a
amazing.
magical thing it leaves you awestruck.
It did. I fell to my knees in prayer because, and I'm not a religious person, I'm a spiritual person,
Yeah,
but it sent me to my knees in
yeah,
tears.
yeah.
Because the fact that it happened 3 different times in 3 different ways in 3 different spaces, unbelievable. And
Nothing but gratitude.
uh, you can't make this up.
Nothing but gratitude. And yeah, and that to me is the power of why it is we do what we do, right? Because in all things you give thanks. And so I am excited. So what's next for you? What are you doing next?
There's a
Shows or
this,
exhibits
this,
or
this is a bigger thing than even the art right now because I have lived in this space for 30 years, maybe a little more than 30 years. And now I have to move because my landlord is wanting to sell the property. And I know in my soul, I outgrew this apartment before I moved into it. My mother
yeah,
jokingly says, "You have a house and an apartment." And in my spirit, I belong in a house for more than the reasons, things you could get rid of. But I know what my soul will do with a space like a property versus what I'm limited in an apartment. And I feel like it's forcing me to take that leap that fear has been crippling me from.
I get it.
I belong in a house and I'm putting it in the universe. Instead of being afraid of the challenge, I'm embracing that somehow, some way, I don't know yet, but this has got to happen. And I put the manifestation of energy into that source because I don't even understand how this is going to happen.
And that's something. And so watch how it will unfold, right? It's kind of like the thing that you think about, when you have your dreams, you have your dreams and you think it's going to be phenomenal. And then
Like
when God shows up
it's
and he
10
creates something, it's always better than you
way
could
better.
ever imagine.
But
You
look at
couldn't even imagine it.
but look, the God is the ultimate artist, right? We call God
Absolutely.
on. And we as artists call ourselves creatives. Like we keep using that word, but we're not ingesting what that word means. You
Yeah.
are an ultimate artist. Look at sunsets. Look at
Yeah.
look at nature. You can
Yeah.
sit in awe and never get tired of looking at a sunset. I've never heard anybody go, "Oh, not another sunset." I've
Right.
never heard that,
Or
right?
another sunrise. Yeah.
Right. And
Yeah.
so beauty in the sun setting and rising infinitely it empowers you to take it in with awestruck. So it's
Uh-huh.
the same thing. The ultimate artist and comedian is God, because
Amen.
God got
It's
jokes.
oxygen. It's oxygen.
So I'm in a surrender, like, okay, God, I know there's a couple of other assignments you've had here on this side of my brain. Like there's about 3 books in this computer that I have that's just been sitting there in those folders that I need to complete. There's me needing to move and open that other lung. And then there's a body of work that I've been throwing in little notebooks and sketchbooks that I need to put into the universe to
Universe.
make those ultimate pieces that's always been sitting in here. I haven't gotten to half of the stuff that's in here. The stuff that you see is the superficial stuff that I get out because I need to sleep. But the stuff that's really in my soul, I haven't even touched yet. And that's why I
And
think the house open that long.
yeah, it'll allow you to do that. I am sending you all of the positive energy and vibration that you need
Thank you.
to make that happen. But I know it will happen because it's destined for you, right? It's destined for that to happen for you because that's your journey and that's your assignment. And I am excited to see what comes out of that. I look with wonder at what is before me.
Thank
So I'm going to thank you for taking time to chat with me, to help me to understand a little bit what's under the hood. Because I think under the hood is it's cool. It's really, really cool.
thank you.
And I'm gonna see you soon.
Yes.
All
Thank you.
right.
I'm
Hold
sending you
tight.
a
Hold
hug.
tight. I'm
Yes.
gonna I'm gonna stop.